Hello, it's Lynn Watts here with Wyatt the Wonder Dog Books. And today I want to talk about certain phrases or ways that students push back against adults and what they're asked to do or required to do, and how we can turn that into positive growth. Before I do that, let me just remind you to like the video and also to subscribe so that you get regular notices when I post the videos, which are usually several times a week. Well, let's just start with a very common pushback that I'm sure you have heard maybe multiple times, and that is, it's not fair. I bet you've even maybe used that yourself. Most of us have, or at least thought that it wasn't fair. So let me just say, first of all, not every time this comes up are you required to come up with the most therapeutic kind of follow up to that. But it's also true that if you can do more than just say, and I've said this, do more than just say, well, life's not fair, the world's not fair, and then kind of the message in that is get over it. Um, if you can do more than that, what you're going to do is kind of tap into the mental, the emotional aspect of the student. And when you do that, you're able to help them um, work around that kind of pushback, and you can improve their responsibility, their accepting boundaries. You can just help them change their perspective so that, it's one thing as a young child or students to say it's not fair. It's another thing once we become adults and we perhaps shirk responsibility by just simply saying it's not fair, I deserve such and such. So I think what we want to do is help give them the correct or the wider perspective of whatever the situation is. All right, so what can you do? What are they really saying is the first thing, what's kind of behind that? And they're usually saying, I feel hurt, I feel left out, I don't like this kind of outcome. And certainly we all have to do things that don't seem fair, or maybe even aren't fair sometimes. So I think first of all, just as always, we want to empathize with how it feels, and we can simply just restate that. Sounds like it feels really unfair to you, and then you want to guide them around to the idea that fair doesn't always mean equal. So if you can help them understand why this assignment, why this event, this way this is going has been structured in this way, and changing their perspective, it can help. So let's say one student has a particular assignment and another student has a different one. So perhaps you help them understand that the assignment that they have is planned according to their own ability, and similarly with the other student. Or if you're a parent and you ask a child to do a chore and it's not fair, their brother never has to take out the trash, maybe then you can help them understand, well, that's because his chore is, and he does that, and your chore is this. And the reason you do this is because you can handle it. He's too young. He can't, there's a lot of different reasons. So helping them to understand some of the perspective, I think is important, and can also improve our own sense of responsibility. The next pushback is everyone else gets to. And certainly as parents, we've heard this. And again, I think we begin by recognizing the feeling behind that. It's kind of hard to be left out, or it's hard not to be part of the crowd. And obviously we hear this response a lot with teenagers, I think. Once you acknowledge that, I think then the next part as the adult in charge is to reset the boundary that is behind whatever that rule or request is. So whether that's saying in this classroom, this is how we do things, in this school, this is how we do things, in this family, this is what's important at this age, this is what, these are our rules here. Just re-emphasizing that and restating the boundary is would be the next step. The third one is usually said in kind of defensiveness if somebody's being called out for doing something wrong. And what else could I have done? I had no choice. What else could I have done? And so I think what they're really saying is either I'm trying to avoid blame, or I felt I didn't have a choice. I felt, pressure in some way that I didn't have a choice. So I think what our best response is, that's really a good question. You felt like you didn't have any other choice, but what other choices were there? Let's kind of brainstorm that. Let's think about that. And then we take that into the future. The next time this happens, what choices would you have and what could you do differently? So again, we're taking it beyond just, of course you had other choices, but we're helping them brainstorm and really process through that. Another very common one, and I bet, as educators, we've or heard this, or as parents, so and so is doing that because they don't like me. My teacher doesn't like me. I got detention because they don't like me. The coach never puts me in the game because he doesn't like me. And so, again, looking at the uh, feeling behind that, we want to talk about, so it sounds like you feel like you're being rejected or you're being picked on in some way, that you're singled out. And then I think what we want to do is separate a feeling from a behavior. So just because a teacher gives you the assignment doesn't have anything to do with necessarily liking you. It has to do with you needing to learn this, or your consequence for this behavior was this, or the coach not putting you in the game has more to do with your abilities and what's needed in the game at this point. All right, so we want to separate out personal identity, feelings about being liked or not liked, from behavior that we see. And I think this is really an important concept uh, to help kids understand, is the difference between feelings and behavior. And then the final pushback, and this is kind of calling out the adult, is you did it too, or you always do it. And this might be something like um, uh, someone gets called out for being late, let's say, being tardy, and they respond with, well, you were late, so and so, or they forget their homework or their assignment, or they didn't bring with it, and, well, you forgot such and such on this day. So the the point here is, first of all, to acknowledge, what, you're not the only one that messes up. We all mess up sometimes, but when we make mistakes, we have to remedy that. And in order for you to do that, here's what needs to happen. All right. So the important thing is to learn from it and to focus on what they need to do, not what you need to do. That's a whole nother issue, but what they need to do to make this particular situation better. So you refocus back on whatever that behavior is that you're talking about. So I hope those are some ideas that can help with some of these very common pushbacks or phrases that children use all the time. And as always, I want to thank you for the great work that you do with kids. And thanks, as always, for listening.